you need to think about the fact that you can do a great job for somebody and they can think that you do a really great job for them. But if you're not doing the job that you know that you're capable of, you're not happy.
Welcome to 33 Tangents, a weekly podcast featuring a rotating panel of co-hosts that all work together in the same company but live in different areas of the world. The discussions cover a wide variety of topics from digital analytics to working remotely to current happenings in business and technology. Our regular day-to-day conversations often go off in various directions, and the goal of this podcast is to share our ideas and find new ways to engage with others.
Well, I stayed up until 1:30 in the morning. I have a YouTube addiction.
What were you
I've
watching?
been watching. Well, I've been watching this guy that reviews MREs. And some of them are super old, like 1940s, 1930s. And if he feels safe about the food quality on some of the items, like he will eat them, and it's amazing. Anyway, I don't know how I got down this rabbit hole,
What's
but
he
I started what
What's he eating from 1940?
a lot of it was, so he was eating World War I, World War II rations, and a lot of it was just kind of like canned beans, just stews, crackers, processed cheese spreads. Yeah, I'll have to send you some of the videos. He's really like soothing to listen to. I think that's part of it. But then I ended up going down this rabbit hole, and there's this like 6'5" black guy in Ohio that I lost track of how many languages he speaks, like near fluent. And he'll just go into like a public market or a restaurant and start talking Cantonese or Mandarin or different African dialects, or Spanish, and he just bounces from language to language. And I'm like, I watched two or three of them. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch one more, and then I'm gonna go to bed.
They go to bed.
And then it was like 1:30, and I'm like, I gotta go to bed. Why am I still watching this? So anyway, I was up too late, and then Jim apparently was up at like 3 in the morning to fly home from Boston. So
Yeah.
this should be an interesting recording session.
It is, because I'm loaded up on caffeine because it's been a crazy 24 hours. So, for me, Boston is a 45-minute flight. Assuming the plane takes off and everything. So I was planning to go up yesterday to visit a client, just spend the day. 7:30 a.m. flight up, 7:30 p.m. flight back. And getting up there was a little bit of a comedy of errors. Just every little thing that could delay the flight delayed the flight. So I got to the office a little late, but we were able to make up for time and have a good day. And we were joking around about last year how I did the same thing, went up for the day, and my flight got canceled due to incoming bad weather. And so I'm stranded with the clothes I'm wearing and a backpack trying to find a hotel room and get booked on a flight for the next day. So we were joking about that for a bit. So I leave the office. I'm walking out the office door at about 5:15, and I get the text message, "Your flight's been canceled. We're going to rebook you as soon as we can." And I'm like, oh, here we go. So I was flying on American. I quick jumped into the app and booked the first flight out this morning, which was 5:15. So
Oh,
booked
man.
that. I had already called my Uber, so my Uber to take me to the airport was on the way. So I changed. I quick pulled up Hotel Tonight and found a hotel room. Changed the destination for the Uber ride to the hotel. Booked the hotel room on the way there. Checked in, and the thing is before I left, my wife was joking with me. She's like, "Pack an extra pair of underwear just in case. Pack an extra undershirt just in case." And I did. I packed that. So fortunately, I had that stuff. So I went to the hotel room, but I'll say I've had maybe 2 hours of sleep total last night, because
Oh, man.
subconsciously I couldn't fall asleep,
Right.
because I was worried about oversleeping for the flight. So Yeah, I may have dozed off for maybe all of 2 hours, and when I came home, I dozed off for maybe about 45 more minutes. So, loaded up on caffeine and a little sleep and a bunch of adrenaline. So today is going to be fun.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
with a new little one at home, you got to get home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but the 5:15 flight took off on time. The plane was there. So, yeah, I'm leaving messages for people on our various Slack channels at like 4 in the morning my time. So it's like 2 in the morning Jason's time, 1 in the morning Gila's time, and so it was doing that from the airport. But the flight took off on time. I was on the ground by 10 after 6 in Philadelphia, and I was walking in the front door just before 7 a.m.
Wow.
You're a trooper. And I asked Jim, I'm like, do you want to reschedule the podcast recording? He's like, oh, no. We're doing this. And I'm going to be
This is
hopped
gonna
up
be
on
fun.
caffeine. And this is going to be fun. And I'm ready to go. By the way, Steven, I dig your home office. It's so bright and airy.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I just this was a empty room in our house, and I'm like, and my wife, she works at the University of Louisville she teaches online, and so she was gonna transition it into her office, but then she finds herself sitting on the back deck, and doing all her stuff on the laptop, and I'm like, well, then I'm taking it. So, but I think is that your segue, Jim? Because I think I'm so glad when I listen to your story. I'm so glad that I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and again, like it's weird that it's happened 2 years in a row. But I've never had it happen like clockwork like this. It just so happened I'm up there because there was bad storms coming through again last night. But it was one of those things you just have to sit back and laugh because there's nothing you could do about it. But I think it is a good segue into our topic. But before we jump into that, want to make sure we introduce you again, Stephen. So we have our returning guest, Stephen Marshall, with us this week, professor at
By
East
popular
Tennessee.
demand.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Professor at East Tennessee State University, amongst many other things. And this was something you actually brought up to me that you might thought would be a great topic after we were catching up following the episode we did a few months back. And I think it's also great for this time of year. Being a professor and all, and it being back to school. So when you think about it, back to school, it's like how as a professional, you may not necessarily go back to school for a degree, but how do you continue to hone your skills and hone your craft to become better? And in Jason's words, develop mastery. So after our conversation, I've titled this, jumping at every consulting opportunity. So just our description to get us started. As a consultant, you may feel the need you have to jump at every opportunity that comes your way. And I mean, think about it. What could go wrong with more work and keeping busy? So let's start off there. Like, what could possibly go wrong, or what could be bad with more work than you know what to do with?
Yeah, I think it ties into some of the stuff you guys have been talking about the last few weeks too, because talking about the sales cycle and chasing different selling or different opportunities for new clients, and I think one of the things that's unique about your organization is that you don't just take any client just to make a buck, and that you're selective on those partnerships and creating those opportunities that that you're going to deliver value to the client, and that relationship is going to be important, and like you guys have talked about too, I mean, the personalization of that relationship and how important that is to really kind of humanize the business time. I think my context, you delivered the title of that so well, and I'll give you my frame of mind when I was writing that to Jason, and then I wrote it to you after, because I was really venting to Jason as my counselor and psychologist, to say, dude, I'm chasing because last time I was on, Jason said, I don't know how you're everywhere, and
Seriously,
I was
you were everywhere.
Yeah, working for Adobe as a consultant, as the industry expert for higher education. And as you guys know, Adobe on the Experience Cloud side of the business has an industry expert in every vertical. And I was the only one that wasn't full-time. So I was a consultant. All the other ones are full-time. Financial services, they all have full-time industry experts that, work with the sales team and work with the marketing team, kind of bridge the customer, voice of the customer, and that kind of deal. And then also the stuff with Siren Marine and the CMO gig, and I was managing a team there. And then I'm a department chair, and then I've got a great department that is growing, the fastest growing graduate program at our university that's focused on brand and media strategy and really bringing that experiential immersion and interdisciplinary education to graduate education. And we're transitioning that into undergrad, and I'm excited about some of the nonprofit stuff we're doing this year. But my point was that I was like in a very mentally dark moment when I was writing to Jason, because I was so frustrated with myself, and that because on the other side of all that consulting are dollars, right? And then the other thing that is a driver, it's more of a driver, honestly, for me than dollars, is just being relevant. And being an educator that's relevant. And so I feel like if I say no, then I'm going to miss an opportunity to learn on top of it, and a lot of what I get to do is honestly get paid to learn, because I have an expertise, but as we all know, you develop an expertise. And one thing you realize as you develop your expertise is what you recognize what you don't know. And you're comfortable with what you don't know, and you go out and start to try to know it. And so I would be in these situations where I'm helping a sales team pitch, or I'm doing a part of the presentation, and then there's questions that are asked, and I'm like, I'm taking notes, and then I'm going home and I'm doing homework, going, okay, I don't really know what this is, but I'm going to learn about it. And then I reflect on it and go, geez, if I stop doing that, then I won't be in those situations anymore, and I won't have the opportunity to be somewhere where I'm going to learn something that I didn't realize would be presented to me, and I got paid for it, and I mean, it's not like, I don't want to paint the picture like I'm getting just paid to learn. I mean, obviously, I deliver value, but so that's kind of the situation I was in when I was like, desperately, texting to or LinkedIn messaging to Jason saying, what should I do here, man? Because you guys kind of have a handle on this, and and how do you go about this? And then the other side of it is, my wife reminded me of a quote that I was talking to her on our walk this morning, which we started doing again because I'm not selling my body out here, and she said, no, I don't pull it up here because it's pretty profound. And, no amount of money ever has bought a second of time. And, that was said by Howard Stark, who is Tony Stark's father, who is Iron Man.
You're talking Jim's language.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, we were watching the end game the other night, which took us like 3 nights because it's so crazy long. Sorry, Jim. But anyway, but anyway, I heard that quote, and she goes, "That's your quote. Like you need to like live by that, because we have these discussions about, what you just don't know where your time is going to end, and we all have, what's important, right? So it's getting to a center point of being satisfied with what's great, and people say to me, geez, your program, you could grow your program huge. I'm like, I would really like to grow my program as big as it's good. And I don't care how big that is. I want it to be good. If it's no longer the quality that I expect it to be, then because it's big, it needs to be smaller. So that's hard, but that's hard to do. I mean, you guys know, especially you guys know better than I do, because I have a great gig. I have a great, I love what I do. I'll never leave the university. Have got lots of opportunities to do that. But, everything else I do is like icing and on the cake. And but at the same time, when you have somebody really cool that wants you to do something, and there's those two things that I balance, like I said, learning and money, it's hard to say no. And like Jason, I can imagine with you guys. I mean, with having to carry a payroll and carry everything else, and the stress of business and having business and trying to figure out when do you say no? When do you say that this even though the money is there and the opportunity is there, the client's not right?
Yeah, and it's something that I struggle with a lot, and it's interesting timing. It usually seems like Jim is picking these topics at an ideal time, and I don't know if he's subconsciously pulling from our conversations or we're just kind of connected in some way. But it's an interesting timing, and we probably should exchange phone numbers at this point in our relationship because it's probably easier to text than LinkedIn, and we can sit on each other's couch virtually here. But yeah, it's really challenging, and from my perspective, the clarity on what's best for our business from a type of work and type of client standpoint is crystal clear, and it's easy for me to make that decision. What's challenging is this desire or need to feel validated. And I actually started writing a post on my personal journal blog this morning about this struggle of having people not get what you're trying to do or reject you. And to me, that's the biggest part of this conversation that I struggle with. We have clients that get it. We have partners that get it. Yeah, I'm so much of my time and attention is pulled to people that don't get it because I want them to get it and I want them to like us. And it's just so counterintuitive because I know from past experience with 33.6 and just work in general and life in general that if I pour my energy into the people that get it, and that's not to say I'm being lazy and not trying to expand and go after new things, but pouring the bulk of my energy into people that already get it, it tends to generate its own kind of mass and direction. And things end up well, but I find myself being pulled to like the one prospect that just like, I don't get you guys. I'm like, well, I'm gonna make you get me, and I have all these other people like, but we already love you. We're telling you we're right here, and you're ignoring us. I'm like, yeah, I got it. I see you, but this guy, I need to convince him. So it's a struggle. But again, from a business perspective, it's odd because it's crystal clear in my head when it's like this client isn't good for us. I can make that quick decision, but from a personal standpoint, it's a real struggle.
Yeah. And, I think that I have the same mentality as you because if I'm in a room and I'm pitching, I find that if I see that person that's giving me like the laser eyes, and shooting, like the death look or whatever, that's the person I zone right to. It's like I want you to love me, and I challenge. I mean, I can look at that. And I will challenge that stare or that nonverbal, just because I want to win everybody in the room. And I that's a competitive thing that I think I have, but gene or whatever. But it's such a balance. And the thing that I fight with so much in my brain is that old saying of those who can do and those who can't teach. I mean, that drives me,
Yeah.
I won't drop the F-bomb for the
But
explicit.
close.
Yeah, I don't, yeah. But man, that just, that kind of thing really, and I think that's what I really revolt against, because I think those that can do and those that can't teach, but those that can do both do, and so it's just like, it's something that is internally, like, and you guys know my story. I wasn't a career academic. I didn't go to school and school and then just have all this book knowledge and want to sit in my office and do my 3 pubs a year and get tenure and promoted, and that's fine. That's great for a lot of people, but that wasn't my thing. I accidentally got into education through some great mentors and some great people that made an impact on me, and so I have this thing that I just love doing the work. So it's hard for me to turn that kind of stuff off, and the travel was just killing me. And, you guys talk a lot about virtual work and stuff. And that's probably a whole nother topic if I go down this road, but there is, there's one thing managing a team virtually, is you got to have the right people on the other end of that virtual line, um, because that it's so hard to do that if you don't have the right people to be able to operate in that kind of a manner. And I think that's a maturity kind of thing, possibly, but it also might just be drive. I don't really know. Too much though.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting discussion around the level of drive, the level of hustle. There's a lot of talk on social about hustle and working really hard to kind of fulfill what you want to do. And for me, it's striking that balance and having that conversation with yourself. And I'm interested in kind of diving into that a little bit more, because we did have this conversation about all of these things that you're involved in. What it's like to have that conversation with yourself as far as where do I need to be content, but not hold myself back from what I can do. I think it's a really fragile balance that we all play. And for me, so when I first set up my Twitter profile, geez, I don't know, 2007 or 8, I don't know, a long time ago, I chose this tagline to put on my profile of nothing lacking. It's my favorite chapter from the Tao Te Ching. Chapter 44, the last part of it talks about, or I'll just read it. Be content with what you have, rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. And I've always taken that as kind of my mantra and how I face things, but I've also been challenged to say, well, aren't you just being lazy? Like, you have so much more you can give. Why are you saying it's okay just the way things are? And I don't choose to look at it that way. I choose to look at it as I'm very much driven. I want to do a lot of things, but it's important for me at the end of the day to say, okay, I put all these things out there. This is the way things are, and I need to be content with it rather than trying to fight against this current. And so, I'd be really interested in diving into that conversation you had with yourself, with your wife, as far as like, what does that look like? What is that balance of saying, I know there's a lot in Steven that I can do. Like there's a ton that I can do for the world. But I also know I have to be content because I can burn myself out. I'm not going to reach that potential. How do you figure out what that balance is for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to say I have that figured out. I don't. But I think that basically I came to a head where it was in early May that I think our FedEx guy's here. I'm sorry. So
Part of the beauty of our podcast.
Yeah, hopefully the boss will get
We're
that.
doing it live.
Do it live.
So, I think that it was in mid-May, and I was up at Siren up in Rhode Island, and I was heading up there, and we had a huge pitch for a huge company that is going to partner with us, and basically it was just, there's so much stuff happening. That's such an exciting company and doing amazing stuff. And if I wasn't like in love with what I do teaching, I would be there like in a heartbeat. Like it's such an awesome place. The CEO is amazing.
I mean, if you have to sign for a package, you have to sign for a package.
Can we pause this? I don't know where my wife
Well, we're
is.
not going to pause, but I'm going to let you go get it.
All right.
What did you go and grab, Jim? A medal?
Yeah. So when he was talking about Avengers Endgame,
We're not
I
pausing.
went over and got my the Infinity Gauntlet finisher medal from when I did the Avengers half marathon in Disneyland in 2017. So I did a 10K the day before, and then I did the Avengers half marathon through Disneyland. And then, so this is the Infinity Gauntlet medal you got for doing both. So I had to go grab it off the medal rack right behind me.
That's awesome.
So you now have all the stones.
Well, it's funny. So with this one, I've only done it once, and they discontinued it for a bunch of construction they were doing there. They're supposed to be bringing them back. So you had the medal here, but then on the back of it, each one is then unique because each year they have a different stone. So like they've got the Reality Stone on the back of this one.
Oh my gosh.
It was a lot of fun, and I told my wife, when they bring this race back, I need to go back out to California and do it. I need to figure it out.
That's awesome.
Now that's the picture that we've used on blog posts in the past where you're wearing like a Hulk shirt or something.
Yes. So like people do it like it's for fun. So yeah, I had an Incredible Hulk T-shirt, and I ran one of the races wearing that. In fact, when I was on site yesterday, We got to talking about like personal work setup, and I told people how like with the baby coming, I got kicked out of my office, which was the third bedroom, and got relocated my office to the basement, which is where I've got all my sports memorabilia up. And they're like, "Yeah, you got some kind of ribbon rack behind you." I'm like, "It's the yeah." I said, so I was telling them about the metal rack, and they started asking about the races. So I pulled up that picture. I said, "This is the picture Jason likes to share every now and then." There's this one, and then me as an intern as a mascot. That he
That's
tries
my
to find-
all-time favorite.
He tries
It's
to
so
find
amazing.
every reason to share across all of our social platforms.
What mascot were you?
So it was an unaffiliated minor league baseball team in Atlantic City called the Atlantic City Surf. And me and one of the other interns did appearances during the day at like local fairs and school events before school let out for the summer. And it was a giant sea serpent. So I had this giant head that I saw. The mouth is right here, so I would be able to
It really
see.
is amazing.
Yeah,
It's so great.
You're going to share it right after this.
I'm going to.
And you can't see it with that picture, but there's a giant tail coming off the back.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. That's awesome, and probably very cool in that thing in the summertime.
Oh, it was awful. Like I can't stand the smell of Febreze to this day because when we be done with it, we had two, but we go back and forth. And one of the grounds crew guys did was the mascot during the game. But after every time we were done, we would Febreze it down. So, God, I can't stand the smell of Febreze today. But we frequently bring that up because it's kind of one of my icebreakers. Is telling people how like I went to do a summer internship because at the time I was looking to get into professional sport management, and just working there I just realized this wasn't for me. It was just like because for two things, because it's one thing to be passionate about what you do, but sometimes you want to be careful about working within your passions because then it takes some of the fun out of it. Mm-hmm. Plus, I also started to realize like I was working when everybody else was off because I was front office staff during the day and then I was game day staff at night.
I don't know if you
What's
guys have
that?
read that.
No.
No, I haven't read that one.
So good
all-
they can't ignore you?
Yeah, I was going to talk about that because you talked about passion and basically what Newport's thesis in the whole thing is that you should never follow your passion. You should find yourself. I mean, if you can match your passion with what or something you're passionate about with what you get to do, then that's really great. But what you really should focus on is something that you're good at and get really good at it. And this has been a game changer for me, and this is something that I continuously reread. And in this kind of transformation back to where I am now or what I'm trying to do, it's been a guide for me because it really says, say no to the promotion. Don't take the promotion. You guys talked about, managers and and just because you're a great person, a great tactical person or something doesn't mean you're going to be a great manager, and so the promotion may not help you grow in a space, and I think that's where, going back to your question before FedEx came, Jason, I think that's what I just try to figure out is like, okay, where am I not growing? And where can I also be like completely present in life, for my family and my son and this amazing, job I'm blessed to do at East Tennessee State University. And I live in such a beautiful place, similar to, your passion, I think, about Utah and stuff, Jason. I mean, so it's just, there's great hiking and there's great outdoor stuff here. And why am I jumping on a plane every other week, and the romance, as Jim, you were talking about the rigor of what you just went through. And, and when people find out that I did all this travel, oh, it must be so awesome.
It's not.
No, it sucks. It's like I tell people, like, platinum member of Delta is not a club you want to be a member of.
Yeah, the company I worked for before I joined 33 Sticks, I was traveling at sometimes 3 out of 4 weeks a month, and that could be just I leave on a Tuesday night and I'm back, midday Thursday. It could be I'm taking the train to New York. Now, I mean, it's a quick train ride to New York, but I've got 2 days worth of meetings, so I'm still taking the train to New York on a Monday morning, and I'm getting back Wednesday afternoon, and yeah, I believe me, I get you. That gets old now. I mean, fortunately, I don't travel nearly that much, so when things happen like they did last night, I can laugh it off. Because I could sit there and be angry at something I can't control, or I can laugh it off, have a funny story, and have an experience where you're going to the airport at 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
But
It's-
no, I,
So
I
how-
get you.
It's not.
So how do we? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna go down a different path. So
No, it's all good.
I'm wondering how we start to change the narrative a little bit, because weren't we all brought up to believe that there is this hustle that we have to be involved in, that it is putting in this hard work and traveling and working long hours, but it'll be rewarded because we're going to make manager, and then we're going to get this great corner office with all these benefits, and like that's what we were brought up to believe is the path we should follow. And I think the longer that we've been in the working world, I think the majority of us start to change that belief, and we start to reprioritize what's important in life. And a lot of those things that we were told were important really didn't end up being important. Whether we achieved them or not, we kind of got there, and it's like, you know what, the top of the mountain really isn't as amazing as we thought it was going to be. It was, the journey along the way, and those things that we missed are really the things that I wish I had back.
Mm-hmm. And when you say that, you kind of reminded me of something that happened on Twitter maybe 2 weeks ago. You had someone in the VC world talking. It was Twitter or LinkedIn. I can't remember which. Maybe it was across both. The whole conversation of, if you want to be successful, you have to go to the big city. You can't be in a small town. Because
you saw my LinkedIn post where I reposted it and I said, this isn't it.
Yeah. No, that's where it was. So, but you make me think of that because I remember when I was fresh out of my career and you saw these people jet setting and they're off for another trip, and now that I'm 20 some years into my career, I'm like, no, I don't want any of that. I want to live in the small town where it's a slower pace, so you can actually just enjoy life. Because I mean, for me, next year I'm hitting a milestone birthday, and I'm looking back, I'm like, holy shit, where'd the last 20 years go? I mean, I could still remember it almost being like me graduating college. It's like, all right, let's get out there into the working world and let's go.
I think the hustle is like you gotta have the hustle. I mean, there's got to be a point in your life that you have the hustle. I mean, I don't know how you get there. I don't know how you get to. I mean, I think maybe that's just the journey that we're mapping here. It's like, you gotta have the hustle to realize what is not part of the hustle, I guess. And I guess that's where I'm at right now, where I'm going. I mean, if I could go backwards, for the last 4 years that I've been doing just, up at 5:30 in the morning, just because I naturally get up at that time, but up at 5:30, checking email, doing work, going into every day the office and running a sprint, basically like not really being as present in the personal relationships with my colleagues that I really feel like I could have been, right? And that's what I've reflected on through that hustle. And then, taking calls and different things during that same day and checking like 4 or 5 different email addresses, where it might, and going through it sounds petty, but going through the frustration of like my Adobe email resetting every like 3 weeks and having to go to the help desk and like just like that kind of stuff, as great as it was just like those kinds of little tiny pieces just kind of poke at you, and then coming home and then being present, at my house for a couple hours, my son gets to bed, and then I'm back working again, And I, don't make any dis. I mean, I love everything that I was doing. You know, I'm curious. I'm driven. I like it. It doesn't feel like work most of the time, but you know, when you get on the road and all those kinds of things, it starts to really feel like work. And then just I wouldn't be talking to you guys if I didn't do that. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like that
Yeah.
journey, like the journey led me here, and to Monday morning quarterback it and say, "Geez, I shouldn't have been doing that. I can't. There's no way. I wouldn't
Right.
know. I wouldn't know you guys if I hadn't been doing that hustle." So
So it sounds like what you're saying is it's a rite of passage. It's kind of experience that we have to go through to get to a point where you actually appreciate having a greater sense of balance in your life.
that's a good way to think of it. I think that's profound, dude.
Oh, I don't know about that, but you said it. I just read it back to you. So I'm interested. Are these type of conversations happening in higher education? What questions are your students asking, and what are you kind of sharing with your students to prepare them for this kind of arc of their life and career?
Great question. I think we can bucket like Gen Z or whatever you want to call them as a type, you know, just like millennials get bucketed like that, you know, and they're all individuals, you know. So I can give you two great examples. I have one student who came to me as a freshman and had a scholarship at Belmont. It was a great university in Nashville. Very, very focused on music industry management. And she said, "Dr. Marshall, I want to work for country musicians. I want to manage artists, and I'm going to look at Belmont, but it's going to be expensive, and but this is what they do, you know." And I said, "Look, we can get you there, you know, and you're not going to have the debt, and you know." And so she took my word, and now she's working did an internship this summer after graduation, and is working and managing on the George Strait team, and she's doing exactly what she wanted to do. That's one type of student, and that's one type of conversation. And I'm bringing her example up because the other side of it is I got this degree and I should be making, you know, $60,000 a year now. So why isn't anybody just giving me stuff, you know? Or really interesting posts that somebody I know had shared that I just thought was so comical was that, you know, some Fox commentator had said, you know, the universities should be held accountable for the debt, and they should be held accountable for students getting jobs. And so I thought, well, that would be fine if we were putting out widgets and they all were the same. But the internal makeup of a student is what drives that student. You know what I mean? So to get back
Yeah.
to your question, it's like I have students that are born to hustle and they work hard. And this particular student, I mean, that is now working, you know, on the George Strait team and all this stuff. I mean, she was the president of our club, and she was the leader of all of our different student experiential trips that we planned. And she was on my student advertising competition team. And, you know, I mean, and this other student doesn't do anything. Just like, oh, you know, I have a degree now. You should pay me, you know, and it's without a doubt every year, every other year I see on social media, I've got this degree and I can't do anything with it. And it's like, well, you didn't do shit when you were here. So why would you expect anything to change? Right? Because getting the degree anymore isn't the rite of passage. They're getting what you put into the work, and that's how our whole program is designed, is that, you know, putting students in a space to do the work while they're learning and being able to fail and all those kinds of things in a structured environment. That's what really is going to that's what makes you want to, you know, that makes you guys want to hire somebody.
Right.
Not because they got a degree from us. It's because they can display the value that they're going to bring to your organization. So I think that I explain to students that this is a hustle, and nobody is going to hire you because of your degree. Like, I don't even know what degrees you guys have, but, you know, I mean, Jim's doing analytics, and he was wearing a mascot outfit, you know? So it's like, you don't. But clearly the reason that you're sitting here, Jim, is because of the fact that you're a driven guy, and you're a curious guy, and I think those are things that I mean, my thesis on that is that I think a little bit of that's teachable, but I think a lot of that's wired. And being able to, I mean, I'm sure there's a whole psychology thread of it that I'm not aware of that I'm probably bastardizing right now. But
So you bring up a really interesting point, because I think we went down this path of kind of hustle, and it sounds like it's less to do with hustling and working hard and putting yourself out there, and more to do with focus. Again, we kind of started this conversation around chasing every opportunity, and I think that this conversation has morphed into it's less about just putting yourself out there and more about the focus. It's still, you have to work hard, still there's the drive, still there has to be that hustle, but you don't have to chase everything. It's more important to figure out where you want to put your focus, and then really hustle and drive within that kind of area of focus. If I'm kind of hearing what you're putting out there.
well, this is why you're my psychologist, because I think this gets right back to this thing, which is that it's so good they can't ignore you. I mean, I'm not pitching his book, but it's great. But
I mean, you can pitch it if it's a great book.
I bought it while we were talking. So it's now
there you go. Your word has much weight.
Yes, I have a copy. I have a copy on the way.
It's so good, because it's really saying that exact thing, focus. And I think that's where I was talking about going and traveling. I was up at Siren Marine, and we had this great pitch, and the work there is just exponentially growing. And so the senior management, that I was part of, and still am advisory board member of what's going on there, but said, geez, how about coming up here every other week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, instead of once a month. We really need you up here. And they're right. I mean, there's in that organization as a startup, there's so much stuff happening, and it's B2B, it's B2C, it's OEM. There's just a whole bunch of fleets. There's all these things that are happening, and happening really fast. And it's being in that culture and being in that space. And I was exactly coming in thinking the opposite. I got to get back to focus, and I can't do it. My uncle's a brilliant guy who's a former professor, a finance professor at Washington University in St. Louis, and he said to me, I was talking to him about this, and he said, you need to think about the fact that you can do a great job for somebody and they can think that you do a really great job for them. But if you're not doing the job that that you're capable of, you're not happy.
Absolutely.
And I think that was like something that really resonated with me very strongly, because that's exactly how I felt. Like, they're so happy with me there. They love it. They love what I'm doing. They love my energy. They love what I'm bringing to the table. I feel like I can't keep up with what's going on. I feel like I'm not managing my team as well as somebody should be. And I got all these other things, I again tried to focus just on Siren and ETSU, but I couldn't do it, and I had to come to the realization that I'm not satisfying myself, even though I'm satisfying them. And I also don't feel right collecting the paycheck that they were giving me, internally knowing that. And that sounds crazy, but that was me, and they're happy with me, and they're happy with what I'm doing. But I don't feel like I was earning the money that I should be earning, because I felt like I was falling short personally. Does that sound weird? I don't know.
It doesn't. In fact, I was having a conversation with one of our clients the other day, and I said, I'm seriously thinking about allowing you guys to opt out of our contract. And they said, why? And I said, because I don't feel like we're giving you the level of work, the level of value that you purchased. And they're like, what are you talking about? No, it's really good. I'm like, but it doesn't live up to my expectation, and it eats me up every week to think
Absolutely.
about it.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is integrity, personal integrity.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
And I
So I
think
get it.
that's super, I mean, that's another internal, but again, like if I'm just chasing Benjamins, then I just keep doing what I'm doing and,
But when that's your goal, like you never get there. And I think that that's the hard part is that with this mentality that we were brought up with, that you get into a job, you become a manager, you become a VP, you get this, you get this, you get this. There's nothing that you can ever celebrate, because once you get somewhere, there's something else further out from you. And not to say it's not important to have goals and stretch yourself, but there's this feeling where you have to have some kind of, again, I'm going to go back to the word content with the way things are. I'm content with where I'm at today, and not constantly chasing some future goal that may be completely unattainable. And again, I worry sharing that, because I don't want it to come off wrong, that it's like, oh, it's like, oh, you're
right.
lazy, you're not invested. That's not it at all. It's just a completely different paradigm of being able to find that balance, and just be content with yourself. It's a paradigm shift where you end up actually creating more. You end up hustling more, whatever the phrase you want to use. So I want to spend the last few minutes talking a little bit about maybe what each of us have gone through to find that focus, because Stephen, I think you hit on it so perfectly, that it isn't about not working hard. It isn't about hustling. It isn't about putting yourself out there, but it's about doing it in a focused manner. How do we go through that exercise? Because I think we started out this conversation with a little bit of we all have the FOMO. We're missing out on something.
Absolutely.
If I don't do this, then I'm not out there, and I'm not putting myself in this position to. So how do we combat all of those negative thoughts in our heads and come up with an area where we want to focus on, which I'm sure for someone like you that has all your talents is extremely difficult, because you could put all of your time into being a bass player. You could put all of your time into, being a CMO. You could put all of your time into being at the very top of academia. How do you figure out the right balance and focus? And again, you're in a very unique position where you can help mentor the next generation. What life lessons are you sharing with them to say it's going to be really difficult as you get out there, but here's some tools to help hone in where you really need to be? And maybe the tools are in that book that Jim just went out and bought.
Yeah, well, they are, but I think that where I disagree a little bit with the author is that there is a point of passion if you can get the passion crossover, I'll cite my wife here, as I typically do in any kind of presentation at some point. She was an amazing farm rep salesperson, like top 10 for Pfizer for a couple quarters, and she's just really good at it. She did not like it. I mean, didn't feed her soul at all, but she was really good at it, and what feeds her soul is teaching and what she's doing now. And so I think, the whole thesis of the book that we talked about was really focusing on something, getting really, really good at it, continuing to have that focus, and making sure that you get into a space where, and this is perfect for the analyst, kind of thing that you guys have to deal with, trying to find people and hire people and stuff, because those people that are really, really good at not only looking at data, but being able to bring narratives together with data that are actionable insights that are going to help a client. Those folks that are good at that, they get to say no to things, because they can say no a lot, because they get their pick, and that's the whole idea of this book. And what he's saying is that, look, it doesn't matter if it's your passion or not. If you just can really focus on it and it's something that you're good at, then people will hire you for it, and you'll be better off for it. And I think that's where I'm coming back, going, okay, let me throttle back. Let me get into some spaces that I'm not as familiar, that I really like to be familiar with, that I know I can deliver value to my students with, and programmatic buying and those kinds of things. And so that's kind of like where my space and my mind space is going now. And I'm not getting paid for any of that, but I'm taking, going back to your question or your comment about laziness, or I'm working just as hard as I was. I'm just not on a plane going somewhere, and I'm not getting compensated for it. but I'm internally like getting more value, and really feeling like I'm bringing that back to the folks that it matters to, which would be me and then my students, and to keep things relevant. And Jim, I think the integrity thing, you said that and it hit me like really quick, and then I was thinking, am I being disingenuous by, and I guess I'm flipping I'm going on a tangent here, but am I being disingenuous because I'm not internally happy with the work I'm doing, but my client is? Is that an integrity thing? Is it? I don't know. Like,
I mean, I think it is because maybe it's you hold yourself to a higher standard than others do.
okay,
So it's the way I kind of see that, and the way I interpret what you're saying is you see it, being a potentially higher quality, more detail, whatever characteristic, you see it being at a step above what somebody else sees it as. And that's why you excel in what you do.
yeah,
So it's not being disingenuous, it's telling people, no, this could be better. You're accepting less.
right, got it. Yeah, that makes sense. So I think it's really trying to help students understand that focus and that deep dive into something is something that they really need to do to differentiate themselves in the marketplace, and to really be able to show an employer the value they're going to bring to an organization. But it's also, if you can align that with something you're passionate about, like who's passionate about programmatic buying? People are, right? I mean, I'm passionate about learning about it, right? So, learning more about it. I mean, of course I know about it, but the thing is, I've not deep dived into it to enough that's where I'm always asking myself questions about it. And I'm like, I really need to get to answering those questions that I keep asking myself. And so it's really that focus, I think, that's so important. And then when it can line up with a passion, then that's the ideal, right?
Yeah, and I think what you're kind of talking about, and it's interesting because we got to a different place in this conversation than I think I had thought we were coming into it, where I had come into it thinking, okay, we're going to talk about doing less. We're going to be, more selective in what we do, so we're going to do less. And in fact, I think the opposite. I think it's paradoxical what you're saying, that we deserve to more deeply evaluate the things that are coming into us and being selective about the things that we want to invest in. And by doing less and taking less, we actually end up doing more.
Absolutely.
Because we're more focused and we end up doing more. So again, I came into this conversation, I'm thinking about, how do I justify this, being lazy or not doing enough? In fact, that's not it at all. It's we all should be in a position where we more critically evaluate the things that are in front of us, and we don't have to say yes to everything. Back to as Jim queued this up, how do you get away from saying yes to everything? That we have to say no to things so we can do more of the things that really are fulfilling and really help drive value with the things that we're good at.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good stuff. So I think we have a return topic, Jim, because there was something Steven said that I'm like, we need to have him back to talk about this huge backlash that there is right now against higher education costs and the value of higher education and why we even need it anymore. That will be a fun episode.
I will put that down in my notes. So Steve and I will be in touch to schedule that. You'll be our first 3-time guest.
Woohoo!
Well, and again, he is in demand.
Yes.
He laughed about it, but like the episode is highly rated, and it was a really interesting timing because Nancy Dooley tweeted the other day about how the first episode was one of her all-time favorite episodes, and I tweeted back, I'm like, well, we should have him back on, knowing that we were going to record later this week. So
that's awesome. I can talk a lot about that. I think that's yeah, totally. That's my I mean, that's really where my center is back again. It's like, I've got 3 new faculty members, and we're doing, Adobe basically came to us and said, we love what we're doing, and you guys are a strategic account, and we're gonna put you really forward in what we're doing, and put your program in front of a lot more people. So all those kinds of things, were like feeders and pieces for me to go, yeah, I'm making the right decision to get back to my focus and what we're doing now, which is pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation, and again, I don't want to steal the key takeaway or wrap up, but for me personally, I walked away with this kind of changing my mindset that really the important lesson from this conversation is not about doing less, but about doing more with being more selective, taking on less things so that we can do more, and that's okay.
Yep.
And we all have that right to be selective and really think critically about the things we're going to say yes to. And those things we say yes to, we're going to put our all into it and really hustle to create the value we can create in those areas. So,
yeah, and there's no avoiding the hustle at some point.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks,
Cool.
guys.
Well,
This has
Stephen,
been a good
appreciate the time as
Good
always.
therapy session.
Yeah, no, definitely. So appreciate the time. This has been a lot of fun, and I'll catch you both later.
Okay, much love, fellas.
Thanks, Tom.
See you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of 33 Tangents. If you enjoyed what you heard, please rate and review the show on your favorite podcast aggregator so others can find us. If you would like to reach us, you can do so by emailing podcast@33sticks.com or on the web at 33tangents.33sticks.com. 33 Tangents is a production of 33 Sticks, an analytics boutique.